Despite my husband's protests, I went on an overseas trip with my high school boyfriend. I posted on Facebook, even though we can't be together as husband and wife, I'm still gonna have your child. The photo showed us holding hands and hugging. He commented under the post, if you're that in love, isn't it time to kick me out and stay with him? After his comment, he wasted no time in calling the postpartum care clinic where he had booked a reservation and canceled it. He then called the women's clinic to cancel all of his scheduled visits. The thousands of baby supplies he had previously ordered were returned or handed out. When he finished, he sighed with relief. He called a few close friends and invited them out for drinks. He needed a distraction. His phone vibrated as they were laughing and having fun. He glanced at the screen, and his smile vanished. It was me. The room became silent, and his companion sensed his shift in mood. Someone recommended, maybe you should head home before she causes a scene. We can wrap it up here. They wanted to help. Ever since he married me, he hadn't spent much time with his friends. When he did, I called them drunks, useless, and blamed them for anything that went wrong. Everyone knew how controlling I was, but he insisted on rejecting the call in front of them and forced a smile. Forget her. Let's keep going, he said. Maybe you should, one of his friends, Mark, began, concerned. He interrupted him. I know you're looking out for me, but I'll say it now. When Sarah gets back, I'm asking for a divorce. She won't be your sister-in-law anymore. The group fell silent, exchanging uneasy glances, but said nothing more. His phone vibrated again. After hesitating, he answered. This time, my shrill voice came from the other end. Who do you think you are, ignoring my calls? If this happens again, you'll be sleeping on the couch for a month. He stayed silent as I launched into another rant. Tell me, I demanded, why did you cancel the postpartum care center? If they hadn't called me, I'd still be in the dark. Are you planning to be this baby's father? If not, don't worry. Plenty of other men would be thrilled. When I got pregnant, he treated me like a queen. Everything I asked for, he made happen. He booked the best postpartum care center in Napa Valley for $10,000 a month without hesitation. He loved me and wanted me to feel cherished, but I used his devotion as a license to walk all over him. Are you listening to me? My sharp voice snapped him out of his thoughts. Yes, I'm listening. What's the issue? He asked calmly. The issue is that you're going to fix it, I snapped back. Rebook the center and send me another $10,000. Mark and I want to stay here a few more days. My words made him laugh out loud. Have you lost your mind? The moment those words left his mouth, I exploded. What did you just say? Repeat that if you're a man. Do you want me to file for divorce? It wasn't the first time I used divorce as a threat. It was my trump card. No matter how small the fight, he always gave in. He apologized, took the blame, and did everything to calm things down. He thought that if he yielded enough, we'd eventually find happiness, but things never worked out that way. Taking a deep breath, he raised his glass and said calmly, Fine, let's get divorced then. He hung up and turned off his phone. His friends stared at him in shock. Why are you frozen? Let's toast to my freedom. That broke the tension. Laughter filled the air, and they raised their glasses with him. Drinks flowed, and he felt genuinely happy for the first time in years. Back at home, he collapsed onto the bed. The buzz of alcohol and freedom made him smile. For years, his life revolved around my demands. I controlled everything, and he let me. He quit smoking and drinking for me. He gave me his entire paycheck every month. He cooked, cleaned, and took care of our home so I could focus on my hobbies. But at some point, I forgot I wasn't royalty. The next morning, he woke up to loud banging on the apartment door. At first, he thought someone was doing repairs, but when the noise continued, he realized it was his door. He didn't need to guess who it was. He took his time pouring a glass of water as the voices outside grew louder. Open this door now! My sharp tone cut through the noise. How dare you cancel the postpartum care and hospital appointments? Are you even human? My voice grated on his nerves, but he was used to it. Whenever we had the slightest fight, my parents rushed over to scold him. When he finally opened the door, he was met with furious faces. Without waiting for an invitation, they pushed past him into the apartment. You'd better fix this immediately, my mother, Linda, demanded. Sarah is coming back tonight, and everything needs to be back in place. Is she bringing Mark with her? He asked coldly. What are you implying? Sarah is returning alone. Stop talking crap, Linda said defensively. Oh, and I heard you earned a $155,000 bonus at work. My father, John, interjected. When are you going to give that to Sarah? He chuckled and shook his head. This was going to be a long day. My father-in-law, John, was obviously well informed. He even knew about the bonus he had gotten from his previous assignment. So, when will you give the money to my daughter? Linda chipped in with her tone. You must have misunderstood, he responded dryly. I'm asking Sarah for a divorce. Linda's face scrunched in disbelief as he used the word divorce. Linda and John's immediate disbelief was palpable. Linda took a step back as if slapped by an invisible hand, while John crossed his arms and attempted to retain his authoritative position despite the fact that he had not expected it. The tension in the air was apparent, but he stayed calm, meeting their gazes without hesitation. After years of complying with my requests, he finally felt some kind of freedom despite my parents' persistent involvement. You cannot be serious, Linda responded incredulously. Sarah will never accept this. He laughed bitterly. Sarah does not have an option. Linda, you crossed all the lines, as did all of you. John scoffed, attempting to reclaim control of the conversation. You are overreacting. Divorce is serious. You can't make such a decision in the heat of the moment. Think about your family. Think about your child. My child, he replied, raising his voice for the first time. You really want to talk about my child? Because as far as I know, Mark is his father, not me. Do you think I'm going to keep funding the charade, paying for everything while she parades around with him? You're out of touch with reality. Linda tried to interrupt him, but he raised his hand, demanding silence. I spent years doing everything for Sarah. I worked tirelessly, handed over my paycheck every month, and fulfilled every whim of hers. And what did I get in return? Betrayal, humiliation, and a family that thinks they can treat me like a walking ATM. This ends now. The silence that followed was deafening. Linda looked at John, hoping he would say something to convince him, but he remained silent. Finally, he let out an exasperated sigh. This is a mistake, one you'll regret. The only mistake I made was not doing this sooner, he replied coldly. Without another word, he walked to the door and opened it, signaling that it was time for them to leave. Reluctantly, they walked past him, but not without Linda issuing one last warning. When Sarah comes back, you'll regret all of this. She won't let you get away with it. He simply closed the door without responding. For the first time in years, he felt like he had some control over his life, and he wasn't going to let empty threats intimidate him. He spent the rest of the day reorganizing the house. He removed every trace of me, photos, clothes, trinkets I had left around the apartment. Everything that belonged to me was packed into boxes and stacked near the door. When he was done, he looked around and felt a massive weight lift off his shoulders. The house finally felt like his. Later that day, his phone started vibrating again. I was trying to call, but he didn't answer. After several failed attempts, I started sending messages. At first, they were insults, then threats. I said I would ruin his life, that he would pay for everything. Eventually, the tone of the messages changed. I started pleading, saying I loved him, that we could work through this. But he knew it was just another attempt to manipulate him. He ignored all the messages and blocked my number. He was determined to move forward, no matter the cost. The following night, around 10, there were violent knocks at the door. His heart raced, but he wasn't surprised. When he opened the door, there I was, accompanied by Linda and John. My face was red with fury, and I wasted no time before starting to yell. "What the hell do you think you're doing? How dare you treat me like this after everything I've done for you?" He laughed, but it was loaded with sarcasm. "What have you done for me, Sarah? You spent years using me as an ATM, as a servant, while you cheated on me behind my back. And now you have the audacity to come here and act like you're the victim." I attempted to enter, but he raised his hand. "No, you're not crossing this door. Your things are there." He pointed to the boxes. "And I'm going to ask you to leave now, before I call the police." I froze for a moment but quickly recovered and began yelling again, calling him ungrateful and saying he deserved worse. Linda tried to intervene, claiming he was being unreasonable, but he simply ignored her. John, on the other hand, remained silent, watching everything with a look that seemed genuinely concerned. Finally, after a few more minutes of shouting and accusations, I picked up the boxes and stormed out, slamming the door behind me. Linda and John followed, but not without throwing him looks full of contempt. When the door finally closed, he felt exhausted but also relieved. In the days that followed, I tried everything to retaliate. I hired a lawyer and filed a claim for alimony and division of assets. Even though everything we had was acquired through his hard work, I started spreading rumors among our friends and family, painting him as a cold and calculating monster. But no matter how hard I tried, he was prepared. His lawyer successfully refuted every accusation, and when the truth about my relationship with Mark came to light, I lost most of the support I had. In the end, the court ruled that I wasn't entitled to anything except for a small amount to cover temporary expenses, and even though it was limited to a few months, the final verdict was a relief. He was finally free. And for the first time in many years, he felt like he could start his life over without me and without the constant pressure to satisfy someone who was never content. Looking back, he realized that every sacrifice he made was in vain, but it also taught him a valuable lesson. No matter how much you love someone, if that person doesn't respect you, you'll never be happy. With a renewed heart, he began planning his future, knowing that from that moment on, he would be the master of his own story. After months of dealing with the aftermath of the divorce, it seemed like his life was finally heading in a stable direction. However, I wasn't ready to give up. Despite losing the court case and being publicly exposed for my relationship with Mark, I kept trying to provoke him. Sometimes it was through indirect comments on social media, and other times through rumors I spread among our acquaintances. But what truly enraged him was finding out that I was living with Mark and boasting that I was supporting him with the money I took from my ex-husband. An old coworker called him one morning to tell him that I had been bragging about still relying on the money I got from him in the court settlement. I was also planning a lavish party to celebrate my eternal love with Mark and boast that everything was being funded by the idiot ex-husband. Those words made his blood boil, but more than anger, he felt a newfound determination. It was time to enter the game once and for all. He spent weeks carefully planning every move. Through mutual contacts, he uncovered details about my current situation. Mark and I were on a downward spiral. Though we tried to maintain an appearance of luxury and success, we were deeply in debt. Mark, without a stable job, was completely dependent on me. who in turn was living off the money I had taken from him and loans I couldn't repay. The party, he learned, would be a financial blow that would sink us even further. The first step was to protect himself legally. He reviewed his financial situation and discovered that there were still services linked to his accounts that I was using. He canceled them immediately. His lawyer also helped him file a motion to review the alimony agreement, arguing that I was using the money fraudulently. But that wasn't enough. He wanted to ensure that my social circle knew who I truly was. He hired a private investigator to gather evidence about my relationship with Mark and how I had exploited him for years. Photos, messages, witnesses, everything was documented. Armed with this information, he created an anonymous social media profile and started posting the evidence. Every detail was exposed: my betrayal, my lies, and how I lived a life of appearances based on manipulation and deceit. The truth spread quickly, and many of the guests invited to my party began canceling their attendance. On the day of the party, I tried to carry on with my plans as if nothing had happened. Mark, however, had already seen the posts and was furious. According to some attendees during the event, I tried to defend myself, claiming the accusations were false and that he was a bitter ex-husband. But Mark, apparently drunk and tired of the lies, lost control and started yelling at me in front of everyone. The argument was so intense that most of the guests left before the event ended. Mark accused me of ruining his life, manipulating him into a relationship he couldn't sustain, and finally stormed out, leaving me alone in the middle of the chaos. The days that followed were devastating for me. My reputation was destroyed. Many of my friends abandoned me, and my financial situation worsened. Unable to maintain my lifestyle, I was forced to move back in with my parents, who he heard weren't happy about the situation either. Mark disappeared from me life soon after. Our relationship completely collapsed once he realized that I could no longer support the lifestyle he wanted. Mark, for his part, quickly tried to rebuild his life with another woman. His reputation was also tarnished, as it became public knowledge how he had actively participated in betraying him. From what he heard, Mark tried working on a few projects, but the shadow of his past actions followed him, and his success was limited. No one trusts someone who destroys others' lives for personal gain. Linda and John, my parents, also paid the price. For years, they had supported their daughter's selfish decisions, defending my behavior and attacking him. But when I returned home with no money or future, they began facing criticism from their own circle. Even some family members confronted them for not intervening earlier and allowing their daughter to live a life built on lies. As for him, he finally found peace. After winning the review of the alimony agreement, he managed to recover some of the money I had taken from him. He used those funds to focus on his own projects, travel, meet new people, and rediscover passions he had set aside during our marriage. Most importantly, he learned to set boundaries and never allow anyone to trample on his dignity again. Looking back, he realized that all the pain he went through with me was a hard but necessary lesson. My downfall was a consequence of my own actions, and while he didn't set out to destroy me, he had no qualms about defending himself. Life gave him a second chance, and this time he's making the most of it. Meanwhile, I and the others continue to deal with the ruins of our own decisions. Justice, in the end, ensured that everyone got what they deserved.